In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to build the best AI SDR so that not only can you scale your cold outreach to thousands of calls a day, but you can also customize your agent for your specific use case. So if you want to make passive income, gently tap the like and subscribe buttons and keep watching until the end, because I promise that this video will contain valuable information you won't find anywhere else. Let's start by going over just a few of the different functions that you can add to customize your AI cold caller. So one of the things that we can do is log the call details onto a Google Sheet. Also, we can send an SMS text messages to the realtor with the lead's information and their current interest. So this can be something like sending over their phone number, their name, and also if they're interested in buying or selling a property. And we can also send additional messages to the actual lead with a confirmation saying that, hey, we have the owner and they're at this phone number. We're going to follow up shortly, and we're also going to give you some additional resources for you to look at while you're waiting for that phone call. So let's go ahead real quick and just talk about exactly how we can basically map this out in n8n, which is the automatic workflow that we'll be using in order to make this natural function that comes to fruition. So in order to log the call details, the easiest way to do this was to be something like using the end of call report and basically adding an additional summary prompt. So add a summary prompt to summarize the call details and then log it into the Google Sheet via the end of call report. So with VAPI, which is the most beginner-friendly AI voice agent development platform that I've seen so far, they have a very easy way to basically, you just write a really quick summary prompt and you put it into, I think it's called the analysis section, where you can basically say, okay, well, at the end of the call, go ahead and summarize it, and then basically send it over a webhook where we'll collect that data and we'll log it into a Google Sheet. Next, we're going to send an SMS to the realtor with the lead's information and current interest. So in order to do that, we'll just need to use an SMS node. Typically, we use Twilio in this community, but basically the way that we'll do that is we'll first need to collect the lead's info and also collect their current interest, right? So the way that I said that we're going to do that is we're going to collect the current interest into the book appointment tool and then add a Twilio node after the Google Calendar node that books the appointment. So that makes a lot of logical sense, right? After the appointment gets booked, we're going to make sure that, first of all, we have collected that data, but then we're also going to add a Twilio node in order to send that over to our realtor. Finally, we need to, in order to basically follow up with the lead, obviously we're probably going to need another Twilio node, one or two actually, and then just basically configure it in order to send exactly what we need. So add two Twilio nodes after the Twilio node of step 2. So that's pretty simple, right? So let's go ahead and jump right into the build. The way that our automatic scalable AI caller works is first we have one workflow called the campaign manager. This is going to trigger every single day at a certain time. Let's just say 9 a.m. for example. And then it's just going to go through this workflow where it goes ahead and finds the leads that have not been called in your database and goes ahead and tags them. So it's going to switch the status to queued. And then it's basically going to limit it to the first 10 calls, usually, depending on what your concurrency limit is. And it's going to go ahead and launch those first 10 calls. After that's been done, we're going to need to monitor the completion so that whenever one call has completed, we're going to go ahead and launch the next call. And that's essentially how we manage concurrency in order to max out the amount of calls that we can do in a single day. So we're going to need to monitor that on the back end. So we're going to need another workflow. And this one's going to be responsible for doing both the monitoring of the concurrency and also looking for information in order to book the appointment. So we actually do this by using a switch node, and this is going to have a route for the end of call report, where this is where we're going to do something like adding the summary to the Google Sheet, like we talked earlier. And we're also going to have a tool call route, which is where we're going to monitor for data coming in from the VAPI AI voice agent in order to do things like checking the availability and booking the appointment. And as you can see, I actually have both of them here. This one's going to be the original one for like a basic template cold caller, but then this one's the one where I've already added the different the different nodes, such as the Twilio nodes, and also I've also added some information about including the summary into the Google Sheet. So let's go ahead and focus on this. By the way, if you haven't already set this up, you can go ahead and watch my full tutorial on that in order to get caught up. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. The first thing that we need to do is log the call details into the Google Sheet. The easiest way to do that is to just add a really quick summary prompt and summarize the call details, and then go ahead and log it into the Google Sheet in the end of call report. So remember, the end of call report is going to be the workflow on the top over here. So if you go ahead and go back over to our appointment setter, we can see that we have a line over here for the end of call report. And this is where we're going to basically track the completion and also just track the lead status. So here we have a Google Sheet for updating the lead status. I'm going to go ahead and show you what the original looks like. So Going to open this one up. And as you can see, we are basically changing the call status to completed so that we know that the call has been done. And also we're adding the call ended reason. But currently we don't have anything for the call details column, which is where we need to enter in the information, right? So the first thing we need to do is go over to your Google Sheet database, and it should look something like this if you don't have it already. And then basically we're going to add a column called call details. And this is basically going to be where we're going to get the information from the end of call report and then go ahead and log it into our Google Sheet. So then we can just go back over to n8n, and then in our updated workflow down here, we can go ahead and open this one up. And as you can see, we're going to add a section called call details. And then we're just going to basically enter in some this reference. And by the way, if you don't already know, you can go ahead and basically make a test run, and then you'll have the input over here, and you can just drag and drop over here so you know exactly what the reference should be. So basically what this is doing is it's taking the summary from the end of call report, and then it's going to log it into that cell that we just showed you earlier. So it's just going to log it into here. And that's how you handle call summaries. So the second thing we need to do is go ahead and send an SMS to the realtor with the lead's information and their current interest. And the easiest way to do that is go ahead and collect the current interest. This is going to be in the assistant prompt, by the way, but we're just going to also add the parameter into the book appointment tool. So this is where it's going to send the information to our n8n workflow. And then we're going to add a Twilio node after the Google Calendar node that books the appointment, right? So that makes a lot of sense. And if we go back to our n8n workflow, we can basically see here that remember, this is the bottom one. On the bottom is going to be updated one. But after we book the appointment to the calendar, we can go ahead and add a bunch of nodes in order to do the things like sending the SMS. So I've created this node. It's called send SMS to realtor. We can go ahead and take a look at that. By the way, if you haven't already set up your Twilio credential, I'll go ahead and link to that tutorial right here. But basically, we're going to send an SMS from this number, and then we're going to send it to this number, right? And so as we said earlier, we're going to send it from our Twilio phone number, and then we're going to send it to the owner, because the owner is basically going to be the realtor in this case. And then the message is going to say something like new AI appointment booked, or whatever you want to say, right? You could say new realtor appointment booked. You can adjust that to whatever you want. But basically the point here is we're going to send the lead's info, for example, their name, their phone number, and then we're also going to send the interest, their current interest, right? And so this is why, as you can see, we're basically referring to the part of the tool call, which is basically going to have collected this information from the AI voice agent. So I'm just going to show you exactly where to set this up so that you know where to basically enter in your information so that it's referring to the right node. So we go ahead and click out this. We're going to look for the configuration edit me node. So obviously that's going to be over here, configuration edit me. So go ahead and open that up. And as you can see, we're just going to enter in the information about our business and our meeting times and all that good stuff. And then this is where we're going to enter in our name. So this is going to be the name of the realtor, and this is going to be the phone number of the realtor, and this is going to be your Twilio phone number. So the Twilio phone number you'll just grab from your Twilio dashboard. That was pretty simple. And then the owner phone number is going to be your phone number, and then it's going to be again the name of the realtor. And by the way, well, this is going to be for the next section, but basically we're just going to also put the URLs down here, just so that it makes it really easy for you to basically edit it here, so that you're not basically looking in different places in order to change the information. So essentially just jump right over and just finish this one real quick as well. So third, we're going to send 1 or 2 SMS messages to the lead with a confirmation that the realtor will follow up shortly, plus the resources. And to do that, we're just going to add a couple more nodes. And also we're going to add like a wait node or something like that, just so it doesn't seem like we're spamming and we're sending, message after message after message. So let's go back over to n8n. And as you can see, after the SMS has been sent to the realtor, we're going to go ahead and send a text message to the lead themselves. So go ahead and open this one up. And as you can see, it's pretty much the same thing. We're just going to automatically autofill with our Twilio credential. We're sending an SMS from our Twilio phone number, and we're going to send it to the customer's phone number. And the customer's phone number is already going to be given by the VAPI AI voice agent, because again, it's smart enough to actually know what the customer's phone number is. And then we can go ahead and basically, you can customize this to whatever you want, but this is what we're going to say. For example, hi, Anthony, whatever the client name is. It was great speaking with you. This is to confirm that, and it's going to be on owner name. So in this case, Anthony Tan. And then we're also going to show them the phone number. So we're going to show them the owner's phone number so that they're expecting a phone number from this person. will follow up shortly to go over your goals. So obviously that makes a lot of sense for making a follow-up call, just letting them know that we're going to follow up with them and, hopefully be able to book that appointment and make some money. So that looks all good. Next thing to do after that is you can change this, by the way. You can change it to, 5 seconds or whatever you want it to be. But and also you can remove this completely too if you want. But again, this is just nice to just make sure that your messages are being sent in chronological order. Because sometimes if it's sending immediately after another, they might get mixed up. So it's just nice to have this. So you can change it to 5 minutes. You can change it to 5 seconds, whatever you want it to be. That's fine. Okay. And then finally, we're going to send SMS number 2 to the lead. And remember, this is basically going to be sending the resources. So same thing, autofill. We're sending an SMS resource from our Twilio phone number and to the customer's number. We've already shown that, so that's pretty easy. And no, it's not going to be to WhatsApp, so we're going to say false. And here's the message that we can use. Also, here are 2 resources that will help you. Resource number 1, resource number 2, and then it's just going to link to the URLs that I told you earlier about in the configuration node. And that is basically how you do all of that. So that's really easy, right? So now that we're about 99% of the way done with n8n, we can just go ahead and get rid of this section of it. And then we can go ahead and set up our voice agent in VAPI, and then basically, fix some things like the VAPI API key, VAPI assistant ID, things like that. So let's go ahead and go over to VAPI. And by the way, link in the description. You can sign up for free, whatever. Go ahead and click Create Assistant. You can name it whatever you want. I'm just going to leave it and just hit Create Assistant. Again, model. My favorite model is going to be GPT 4.1 Mini. Assistant speaks first with model generated message. And then we can go ahead and skip into the system prompt and go ahead and input that in. Now I've already written it, so I'm going to go ahead and get that from my files. And it's going to be called advanced cold caller prompt.json. So go ahead and open that up. Control A, Control C to copy. Control A, Control V to paste. And then just hit publish every once in a while just to make sure that it saves in. By the way, if you already don't have those files, you can go over to my school community. And I'm going to make a post after I upload the video, but basically click on templates. And then I'm going to make a post. So go ahead and click on that post. And you can go ahead and click download and just get all those files. So back over to n8n, back over to VAPI. We're just going to need to do things like setting out the tools and also inputting the system prompt, like I said earlier. Not the system prompt, the summarize prompt. So let's go ahead and do the tools first. So that looks fine. By the way, you can play with the temperature. I usually like 0.4, so I'll do 0.4. So for the tools, we're going to go ahead and need to create some tools, right? So hit publish again just to make sure that it saves, because if you don't hit publish, then all your work here is just going to get erased. So go over here, click create new tool. And this is basically going to bring us to the tools tab over here. And currently we don't have any tools created, so I'm going to show you exactly how to create them from scratch. Go ahead and click create tool. It's going to be a custom tool. Now, sometimes people ask me like, why not use these tools usually? It's because since we're hooking up with n8n, we get a lot more flexibility that way. So that's why I almost exclusively use custom tools now. We're going to need, I think, a total of 2 or 3 different tools, right? The first one is going to obviously be check availability. So we're going to call it check availability. Let's go down to the parameter section. This is where we basically give it the information about what we need to collect and what we're basically doing. So go ahead and click on Visual Editor, and then we're going to get the code from the files. This file is going to be called check availability. So go ahead and double click on that to open it up. Control A, Control C, Control V, paste. Okay, and again, you can always unclick this to see what it's doing, but basically it's collecting an initial search date and time in order to know when to start checking for the availability. Click on Save to save. Then we're going to create our second tool, custom tool. And then this one's going to be called book appointment. And actually, now that I think about it, we only need 2 tools because, as I said earlier, we just go ahead and look at this. We only have 2 routes. So that's it. That's an easy way to know like how many tools that you need. So go back over to VAPI. And here, again, same thing. Skip all this. It doesn't matter. Go straight to the parameters, visual editor. By the way, you can always just do this manually, but it wastes a lot of time. So it's almost always better to just do it using the visual editor. And then again, just get it from the files. And this one looks like it's going to be called bookappointment.json. So go ahead and open that up and Control A, Control C, Control V. And real quick, as you can already see, it's basically showing exactly like current interest, end date time, start date time, client name. So that's exactly basically what we're using. So hit apply to save, and you can always uncheck this, just see what it looks like. And then finally just hit save. And as you can see, we're all done creating our 2 tools. So all we need to do now is go back over here, click on assistance, scroll down to the tool section. And then we need to assign the tools that we just created to the assistant. So select tools. In this case, you can just hit select all since these are our only tools. and go ahead and publish and save that. All right. So now we've done entering our system prompts, and then we've also set up our tools. Finally, we can go down over here to the summary section. Now, this is going to be the place where we enter in our prompt. So as you can see, it's asking for a prompt here. So all we need to do is go ahead and paste that in. The summary prompt is going to be called, in this case, advanced cold caller summary.json. So go ahead and double click on that. Control A, Control C, Control V. Now, again, obviously you can customize this to wherever you want, but I've just done something really simple, such as you are an expert call analyst. Your task is to summarize the call into a concise, structured report. Analyze the conversation to determine the final outcome, the key interests or objections, blah, 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 right? And so the point of this here is basically just to see like, okay, what was the actual outcome, and also to force the AI voice agent to think about the things like the current interest, because again, that's going to be important for sending the information to the realtor in the SMS text message steps. So that's just what we're going to use in this example. So go ahead and hit publish. All right. And then all that there's left to do, I believe, is go on over to the messaging section. Because this is basically where we're going to designate the server URL in order to connect our AI voice agent and VAPI with our n8n backend. So we can go back over to our backend over here in n8n. As you can see, the first node says webhook production URL equals VAPI server URL. So that's pretty clear, right? Double click on this, go to production URL, click on the production URL a bunch of times, just make sure that copies. I'm just doing that just to show you that it's actually copying. But the point of that is once it's copied, go over to VAPI, paste it in here, publish and save, obviously. And then this is basically going to send a bunch of different information to our backend. So in order to basically clean it up a little bit, and so you're not like maximizing your executions, you're keeping it clean, we can go ahead and go down over to the server messages section, hit select all twice to unselect everything. And the only two things that we need are going to be the end of call report and the tool calls. And the reason for that is, as I said earlier in the appointment setter, we have two main routes, right? We have a switch route right here that as you can see, it's only doing end of call reports and tool calls, right? If we needed more information, we might, add another route here, and we will just go back over to VAPI and go ahead and enter that here. But that's typically the only two that we need. So now that's done, all it does have to do is hit publish. Alrighty, so now that pretty much finishes our assistant, right? So all that is left to do right now is going to go ahead and get the assistant ID over here. And also there should be one for the API key. So let's go ahead and start with the assistant. So let's go ahead and copy the assistant ID a couple times, because then we're going to need to go over to the single caller. Because remember when I said earlier, the single caller is going to be responsible for making every single call. And this is where we're going to enter in our assistant ID. So it's going to be in number 1 configuration. So double click to open. As you can see here, we just need to enter in our VAPI API key and our VAPI assistant ID. So VAPI assistant ID here, paste. All right. Now that is done, all we need to do is get our VAPI API key. So go back over to VAPI. And then we're going to go over to the left here to this lock. As you can see, when I hover it, it's going to go ahead and say API key. So click on that. And here we're going to see our private and our public API key. Now the public API key just means for using front end. So this is usually for things like if you're adding like a widget or like a voice chatbot to your website, that's what it's used for. Front end usually just means like UI or like things that basically a client is going to be able to see like visually, right? And then for backend systems is usually where you're not actually seeing it in a user interface. It's just happening in the background. So that's how we know exactly that we're going to use the private API key for this example. So go ahead and go over to the copy ID over here and go ahead and click that. As you can see, check mark just means that it successfully copied. Then we're going to go over to the single color. We're going to go over here and paste it in. All right. So now that is done, go ahead and hit save just to make sure that it's completely done. And that is our single color 100% done. Now there's going to need another spot for the VAPI API key, which is going to be in the campaign manager up over here. So click on the campaign manager. And as you can see here, we have another configuration node. So double click on here. And as you can see, we're going to go ahead and need to enter in our API key. So go ahead and open that and paste it in. All right. And so that is done. And oh, by the way, this is where you're also going to change things like your concurrency and your leads to call today. So let's say, for example, your concurrency is equal to like 10. And then you want to call 600 base today. You just do that, right? But for today's example, I'll just keep it simple. Just do like the minimum viable product. So here we go. That's done. Now we're just going to hit save. Oh, and by the way, we do need to set it to active so that it's basically actively listening for information so that it's going to start at 9 a.m. And then also the single color as well, so that it's basically actively waiting for like a trigger basically in order to get executed by the campaign manager workflow. So this one actually is also automatically just waiting, so we do not actually need to set that to active. But let's go back over to the appointment settings. I don't think we set that one to active yet. So yeah, that looks correct. And I'll just do one more check real quick. Let's see. Yeah, everything looks good. Everything looks great. So now we just go hit save and then just set it to active. So all that there's left to do is either wait until 9 a.m., which is when it's currently scheduled to trigger. By the way, you can also go in here and change it to whatever time you want. Like let's say you want to trigger at like 8 a.m., then you can go ahead and do that. And also, but if you don't want to wait for 8 a.m., you can also just hit execute workflow right here. It's going to execute immediately. And that's also great for doing things like testing. And so basically what I've showed you today is just one of the many different features that you can add to your AI voice agent to customize it for your specific use case in order to make as much money as possible. And if you're looking for additional features, by the way, you can do things like advanced communication, email confirmations, multilingual support, lead qualification, FAQ answering, CRM integration, call transferring, rescheduling, post call summaries and analysis, and there's so much more. Honestly, I've only included like half of what is possible here. And so easiest way to do that is just go ahead and get like all the complete n8n templates, VAPI prompts, and also if you have any questions, you can ask them in my school community over here. And so, like I said earlier, you can get all these files. I'm going to include it into the post that I'm going to make. So, guys, if you enjoy high quality advanced tutorials like this, go ahead and smash that subscribe and like button. And I will see you in the next video. Have a good one.